What's up, nerds? It's your boy, the OGGM, coming to you live from the Wretched Verse from Hammetville, Texas. That's right. It's Wretched Wednesday. Time to take a look at what's going on in the world of Wretched Vigilantes, the role-playing game that I created for the Red Room as part of the Wretched Verse. So this week we're looking at Wretched USA, the year 2024. What does the USA look like in a world where super-powered vigilantes and villains and heroes exist? Now, if you're wondering what all of these X's are on this map of the USA, I'm going to let you know. So Wretched Vigilantes, book number 3 is at the publisher right now. It is called Good Guys Never Win, and it is about exploring the USA of the Wretched Verse through my eyes. Now, I didn't want to do every single solitary state because that book would have been too long. So I wanted to only focus on, at least for this book, a few states. And if people appreciate it, then we'll do the rest of the United States and the world in another book. But how to pick which states? So as you remember in our previous discussion about Wretched, what I did, my inspiration came from watching the videos of Eric Brubaker. If you're not familiar who Eric Brubaker is a YouTuber who like once a year goes to every restaurant in a specific restaurant chain. One year he went to every Rainforest Cafe in the United States and Canada. And another year he did every Margaritaville, which was, kind of poignant considering Mr. Buffett just passed away. So I decided to do the same thing. I decided the individual that our story focuses on is going to visit one branch of a specific restaurant in every state. Now, I couldn't use an existing restaurant, so I had to make up my own. And what I made up was Turk's 1950s motorcycle-themed diner, and the chain that is across the United States. Each state that has a location of Turks is explored, starting, of course, with Texas, because that's where Hammetville is located, which is the center of the Wretched Vigilantes universe. But we cover a couple other states. So in each state, I had to look up things like landmarks, where hotels are located, what the response time might be for police, stuff like that. So here's the Wretched Verse United States. We start in Canada. Not Canada, Texas. And then each one of these X's is a location of where a branch of Turks is, which apparently I put as Turk's 1905's diner on the map. I'll have to fix that and resend it to the publisher. Yay, me. And then each of these restaurants are themed around what the state has in the way of landmarks. So Texas, Alamo, had to start it at the Alamo, had to start it with the basement in the Alamo joke. R.I.P. Paul Herman, of course, that joke famous for in the movie Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Pee-wee goes to the Alamo to find his missing bike. He's told that the bike is hiding in the basement of the Alamo. He gets there to discover that, in fact, the Alamo doesn't have a basement, but the gift shop does. And when I called the lovely people at the Alamo Guest Services to ask them about the joke and how often they get asked it, they said that on an average, at least once per day, somebody in one of the tour groups asks about the basement of the Alamo, even after all this time. So that's just to show you how ingrained in the public perception the basement in the Alamo joke is. Turns out the Alamo doesn't have a basement because, when it was built, that wasn't a thing that it needed. The gift shop, though, does have a basement. Then from there, we go to Wretched, Florida. Rye, Florida. What's in Florida? Disney World, of course. So I had to place a restaurant in Disney Springs, which is their version of downtown Disney. It's a huge shopping center outside of the Disney World complex. And then, of course, it had to be Disney themed. And I decided to place it in one of the restaurants in Disneyland. Then we move on to Wretched, Tennessee. Why Tennessee? Because Tennessee is where Dolly World is located. And Tennessee is where Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge are located. Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge are incredibly bizarre towns. And Dolly World is supposedly one of the best amusement parks and features one of the best dark rides. that people claim that into dark writing things. If you've never seen Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg, I highly recommend you check out one of the many YouTubers who have gone there. It is basically just two cities built up around tourist traps, right? Like three different Ripley's Believe It or Nots, multiple escape rooms, themed buildings, themed restaurants. When I was talking to the people at the Pigeon Forge Chamber of Commerce, about how this all started, like, did all these weird buildings come up because of Dolly World, or did they exist before Dolly World? In order to continue to perpetuate the mythology, of course, the individual could only tell me that, this sort of all evolved at the exact same time. So just imagine one long strip of road, and every single building is either a themed restaurant or a gift shop or a cheap knockoff of a ride. Like there's a cheap knockoff of Earthquake there and the Jungle Cruise. I highly recommend you check out videos. So, of course, I had to explore there. And then from there, we go to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York. What's in Pennsylvania? Hershey's Park. Hershey Park, the Hershey's candy plant, and Hershey's Park, which is a theme park built around the Hershey's candy plant. And of course, there is a dark ride that goes through the Hershey's candy plant. And did you know Pennsylvania is considered the most haunted state in the United States of America? I didn't know that. And the Hershey Park has its own selection of ghosts, as well as cryptids and Bigfoot, because every state in the Union has a Bigfoot or a version of the Bigfoot. That Bigfoot guy gets around, and we talk about that in Wretched Vigilantes. Good guys always lose as well. Then, of course, we go to New Jersey because that's where the tunnel is. Head over to New York because it's New York. We talk about, Manhattan. We talk about skyscrapers. We talk about the New York superhero community in that one. And then we head all the way over to Wretched Wyoming, which means we miss all these states. So if you live in any of these states here and want to see me visit them in the next Wretched book, let me know. And we'll come up with some superheroes and supervillains that might live there. Wyoming, of course, we have Yellowstone National Park. Did you know that's where Yellowstone National Park is an actual thing, and that is where it is located? Great place for some tourist traps. And of course, since Yellowstone National Park, we had to do Yogi Bear jokes. So there's a couple of Yogi Bear in there jokes because of Jellystone National Park. From Wyoming, we head to Nevada. What's in Nevada? Vegas. So, of course, there's going to be one in Vegas because there's so many new restaurants in Vegas, which means I had to look up all the new food courts or food malls, as they call them in Vegas, and then pick which one the restaurant is located there. And then I had to come up with a theme one. And then I discussed what, the Rat Pack, a whole little thing about the Rat Pack, and then supervillains and superheroes in Vegas. And then we revisit my Nevada imaginary city of Fresno, Nevada, and the Solarborn superheroes that I made for them in March. They will now show up in the Wretchedverse. And if you want me to explore them again going further, the Solarborn, a lot of people really appreciated that. They will maybe show up in another Wretched book. From there, we head to Washington because a certain game company is located in Washington. And of course, we had to place one of our branches of the restaurants near certain game company. And certain game company sort of features in that chart, the chapter on Washington, as well as Washington supervillains, superheroes, and Bigfoot, because Washington, Bigfoot. So yeah, there might be a certain specific game company that is mentioned, and certain individuals who may or may not be associated with said game company might show up in a variation in Wretched, in Good Guys Always Lose. Then we move on to Oregon. Why Oregon? Two reasons. One, what's in Oregon? Astoria, the hometown of the Goonies, a classic 1980s movies, the progenitor, if there is one, to the whole Stranger Things, kids in danger, kids going on adventures genre. Reason two is DM Kurt is from Oregon. And as you know, DM Kurt has contributed a lot directly and indirectly to a lot of my creations. Leslie, this entire book, Good Guys Always Lose, was inspired by DM Kurt's review of Wretched Vigilantes and his comment about how none of the characters seem to be cosmic threats. So the entire story is all based upon that comment. So you can either appreciate him or blame him, depending upon how you feel about Good Guys Always Lose, coming out hopefully by the end of October from the Red Room. And finally, we end in California, my home sweet home in downtown LA, where we have the final restaurant and we have the final encounter between all the characters that we have mentioned throughout this entire thing. We explore a little bit of Los Angeles 2024, the multiple superheroes that live in California. We go into maybe why California has the largest population of metahumans in the Wretched Supers universe. And then from there, maybe giving some hints at what's going to come next in the trilogy. So book one of the trilogy, of course, was, Bad Guys Always Lose. Second book in the trilogy is Good Guys Never Win. And the third and final book in the trilogy will be Henchman Sings the Blues. Now, I'm not quite sure what that's going to cover yet. We might explore the Solarborn in Nevada more. We might explore the rest of Wretched United States or other countries in the Wretched universe. Obviously, with a title like Henchmen Sing the Blues, we're going to have to talk about the henchmen organizations that might exist in Wretched Supers universe, like, Wretched Interpol, Wretched FBI, G.I. Joe, whatever exists. Also, we need to sort of finish up the story of Hammetville, that we started in the initial book before the inevitable Wretched Vigilantes second edition, because I've got to do that eventually, right? Because it's just something you do. And there's so many things I'd like to redo if I had the chance. And then we were just already talking about doing a California-centric source book, whether that be for Wretched Darkness or Wretched Vigilantes. I don't know yet, but that's way down the pike. But Miguel and I were just talking about doing a California-centric, California noir, Hollywood noir setting for Wretched. Not this year, obviously. The next project for Wretched will be more of the adventures. I have an adventure up at Giant Slayer Games. Link down below if you haven't picked it up yet. There's a $2 Halloween-themed Wretched adventure at Giant Themes Games. We'll go over that next week. And we'll start looking at some of the individual NPC characters that pop up throughout the Wretchedverse and continue to mislead you and mislay you as to who is telling the story of the Wretchedverse. Now, it would appear it's Tag, the teleporting supervillain from Wretched Vigilantes. This second book is pretty much all about her. She does appear in a lot of the artwork. So is Tag our mascot? Is Tag the one telling the story of the Wretched Vigilante universe? Or is it someone else? I don't know. I want to keep you guessing. But the third book will definitely feature the crime lords, the major villains from Wretched Vigilantes, and sort of bring to a close the story of the crime lords that we began in the core books. If you haven't picked up the Wretched Vigilante core books yet, Wretched Vigilantes by myself and Miguel from the Red Room, and Bad Guys Always Lose by myself with Miguel from the Red Room, and a lot of help from DM Kurt and my friend Andrew. Pick them up now. They're both on sale. There's links down below. Good Guys Never Win should be available hopefully October. I know Miguel's got a lot of things on his plate, but hopefully at least the PDF will be available. And we have an adventure available on Giant Slayer Games called the Hammetville Halloween Adventure. And there's a link on that. I don't know. Do you have any questions about the Wretchedverse? Please let me know. If you want to know what my plans are, if you have any ideas of things you'd like to see in the future of Wretched Vigilantes, let me know. Or not, definitely always on my mind whether there is an actual audience for Wretched Vigilantes or not, with so many other superhero role-playing games out and so many other superhero role-playing games doing, street-level, dark, Wretched Vigilante type characters, including Bloat Games Vigilante City, which was also a heavy influence on this. So yes, feel free always to reach out to me if you have any comments or questions about Wretched Vigilantes universe. That's this week's update. If you want to hear me do this again next week, let me know. If you never want me to talk about this topic ever again, let me know. Till next time, Have a great day and stay safe. Halloween's coming up, and we know Halloween in Hammetville is gonna be dangerous. Till then, stay wretched. Bye.